Thank you everyone for joining us. I am going to kick things off. So this is our Galaxy Connect webinar, how to effectively work with online travel agencies, abbreviated OTAs, as most of us know. Before we do get started, I just wanted to go over a couple logistical things. So first and foremost, we definitely want this to be interactive. So we encourage you to ask questions, make comments, share your own personal experiences. If you're comfortable doing that sort of live in person, you can use your camera or mic buttons, which are up top. So you could share your camera just by turning that on or unmuting yourself by clicking the mic button if you want to. So definitely come on camera and engage. We're happy to have that. But if you're not as comfortable with that, we totally understand. There is also a chat feature. So it's that little talk bubble also in the menu. So you could open the chat and just type your question, comment, or story. I'll be monitoring that the entire time. Um, if you do have any questions, just in regards to logistics as well, please feel free to type that in the chat and I'll answer. So with that being said, I did just want to address your eyes to the screen. We do hold these webinars periodically. And if you do want to receive information and invites to these webinars, you could message me at marketing@gatewayticketing.com, or you could follow the link that's there to our community. If you go to the community on the right-hand side, you can actually just sign up yourself for our weekly newsletter. So that'll help you get all this information. Can you advance the slide now? We've got a great team today. So first and foremost is Wanda and Nell. So Wanda will be presenting. She's the distribution partner manager for Galaxy Connect here at Gateway. And she'll be talking through some of her expertise with Connect. And similarly for Nell, Nell's our supply partner manager. So Nell will be presenting about her expertise. And then I'm Greg, I'm the senior marketing manager here. I'll just be moderating. And what we are most excited about is actually our two special guests today, our guest panelists. So we do have Sarah Lowe. She's the senior destination manager from New York City. If you just want to give us a wave, Sarah. She works for GetYourGuide. And the cool thing about Sarah, why we really wanted to have her on, is she works for an OTA right now, but she's also been on the supplier side. So towards the second half of this webinar, we'll be talking to Sarah, as well as Jonathan. So Jonathan is the manager of technology for New York Cruise Lines, a customer of Gateway's. So we wanted to bring Jonathan on board. He does have a relationship with Sarah and GetYourGuide, as well as Nell and Gateway, and I think comes from the perspective of someone on the tech side, the system administrator, the IT side, and how you can kind of manage a solid relationship from that perspective with OTAs, as well as with, say, the sales and marketing folks at your attraction. So with that, I'm going to now kick it off, hand it over to Nell, and away we go.
Okay, thanks, Greg. So welcome everybody to our How to Effectively Work with OTAs webinar. We love holding these and we love spreading the news about Connect. So just a real quick blurb in case there's anyone on the call who doesn't know about Connect or isn't working with it. Basically, Connect is our cloud-based platform that allows suppliers to do direct live to gate tickets with third-party distributors, OTAs. Um, if you want more information about Connect after this webinar, please reach out to me directly, and I'd be happy to give you an overview of the system and what it can do for you as a supplier or a distributor. We love it, and we want to share and grow it as much as possible. So, first thing we're going to talk about are OTAs. And working with Connect, um, it brings you into a world where you're dealing with OTAs. And what I have found with working with Connect is if I do just a little bit of homework, I get a lot of reward because there's a lot of information out there for us about OTAs. And if we just do a little research, we can find out what they are. So basically, what is an OTA? An OTA is an online travel agent. You will also hear me refer to OTAs as the distributor. So in the connect world, there is a supplier, and that's usually the attraction supplying the tickets. And then there's the OTA that usually has a web-based marketplace that consumers can go on and purchase their tickets. And the reason we're talking about OTAs and trying to promote Connect is that we see the change happening in the world, that millions and millions of travelers are now going to OTAs to plan their trips. They're no longer just booking their hotel or rental cars on the OTAs, they are also buying their tickets to attractions. So next question, our next comment is benefits of working with an OTA. So this is a question I get from suppliers. At Gateway, we have a lot of suppliers, and when we talk to them about Connect, the question does come up of why should I work with an OTA? So the biggest thing, and probably our the most important, is the expanded marketing reach. As I mentioned, guests are shopping online now more and more. Personally, I hardly go to the store anymore. I'm buying everything from groceries to planning my trip to booking hotels and everything online. So when I shop online, what I look for is a familiar site. Um, and that is the same with um, people that are looking for tickets to do. They're going to their familiar sites. So if someone is looking for something to do in a certain region, they're probably going to a familiar site that they know and searching for things to do. And if you're not exposed on those particular sites, you don't show up. So the increase of your online exposure is huge. It's a huge benefit when you're working with an OTA. The other question or comment that we often get is, well, we don't want to pay them to do things. Well, it's really pay per performance. Excuse me if I can get my words out, that would help. You're only paying when they're making a sale for you. So everybody that's on an OTA is going to cringe when I say this, but I always say it's kind of free marketing because you're getting the advantage of them, but you're really only paying when people are making the purchase. So it's a win-win. Some of the other benefits is when I talk about the trusted brand prospect or aspect of it, consumers are hesitant when they have to put all their personal information into multiple sites. So if they have a trusted site that they go to, and I'm going to use Get Your Guide because they're a special guest today. So if they've shopped on Get Your Guide site, they've already done business with them. They already have their information in that system, and they know that their information is secure and that their credit card transactions will be kept secure also. And it also is their one-stop shop. So they can go onto one of these major OTAs and buy everything they need for their vacation. And then the final point here is their marketing money. So OTAs have made massive investments in digital marketing recently. All you have to do is Google this and you'll see some of the money that's flowing through and that these OTAs are putting out there. So take advantage of that. Get on board with them and take advantage of the marketing that they are doing. Um, and getting you out there into the corners of the world that you may not be able to hit yourself.
Now, while you switch sides, we had a comment from Mark Topley, who said, he agrees with this. Crest doesn't just sell their toothpaste on Crest.com. Nike doesn't just sell their shoes on Nike.com. So kind of a similar, just a good analogy there.
I love that. And if we can use that quote in the future, I might steal it. So that's a good comment. Good comment. So so let's talk about the different types of OTAs. We refer to them as online travel agencies. But again, this is where doing a little homework about your OTAs gives you a lot of information, and it helps you to get to know your audience. So we have global OTAs that have a presence literally all around the globe. And then we have, and I don't want to refer to them as smaller OTAs because they're not really smaller, they're just domestic. They're doing business directly in the United States. I can give you one example of an OTA that we currently work with in Hawaii. And that's his only audience is Hawaii. But I'm telling you, he does a great business and he's just a very local OTA. But he loves Connect, and the customers that work with him love being able to sell direct to gate tickets through him and get rid of the vouchers. One of the other larger types of OTAs that we work with are the employee benefit programs OTAs. And these are a little bit different in the fact that someone has to be in some sort of employee benefit program to receive a link to go onto the site and make purchases. But I can tell you that some of our OTAs like this, like EBG or PerkSpot, they're great programs. And if you work at any company that gives you access to these benefit programs, when you go into their sites, you will see that there are many, many options to buy things and also travel. So the employee benefit programs are also great OTAs to work with. We also have the big box stores. So if you go on to Sam's Club and you drill down into their things to do section and buy tickets, those tickets have to go through a system somewhere. So they are going through an OTA also. And then membership clubs, the same thing, like AAA. A lot of people join the AAA club. So they take advantage of what AAA can provide to them. And one of those things, well, AAA is all about travel. So there are different types of OTAs. And these are types of questions that you can do research on your own to find out who they are and who they sell to. And these are questions that you can certainly ask us here at Gateway. I'm happy to answer and give you information that I have, but I guarantee you the OTAs love to hear from you and they love to tell you everything that they can do and provide for you and who your audiences will be. Any questions on the different types of OTAs?
We've got nothing right now in the chat.
So when I talk about OTAs, who are they? What are they? This is just a sample of some of the OTAs that we at Gateway are connected to through Galaxy Connect. And what that means to you is once you start to use Galaxy Connect, you have the ability then to do business with any of these OTAs. And this list is not complete. Our complete list is on our website. And we also will provide you the list. All you have to do is request it. We'll send you a Excel spreadsheet giving you the full list. But this is what Connect opens you up to all of these types of OTAs. So we're going to switch topics right now, and we're going to talk about capacity managed products and selling them through the OTAs. This was a big question that came up during COVID. We had a lot of our suppliers close, and then when they reopened in a model where guests had to select a time and date to show up, mainly because they had capacity controls in place. They were only open certain hours. All different things came into play. And we had many questions surrounding this. And the basic one was, well, can I sell capacity managed products through the OTAs? And the answer is yes. So let's just talk about capacity managed products for a minute.
Fullerton
So,
deposited $120 into our checking
so
account.
everybody understands what we're talking about here. So capacity managed products are, in essence, time ticketing. It's the process where when a guest is purchasing a ticket, they must choose a date and or time to arrive at your location. The capacity managed products can be multiple times throughout the day. So you might say we have entrances at 10, 12, and 2 throughout the day, or it could be a one-time access that they're basically just selecting the day that they arrive, and then they can arrive anytime during your opening hours. So the benefit of selling the capacity managed products is that it gives you a real-time snapshot of what your future attendance looks like. So you could go into Galaxy and say, okay, I want to see what's happening on July 6th. And you could look at tickets that were sold and you would have a real-time perspective of how many guests that were going to be attending. And your capacity will always be current, even if you are selling through the OTAs. So I'll talk about that a little bit more. The reason that your capacity will remain current is that the OTAs will reach through Connect into your system and get your capacity. They usually go in, make a call, and then they cache availability so that they can display that on their site. And then when a guest is making a purchase, real-time availability is checked to make sure that that availability is accurate. And the guarantee is that if there is no availability at the time of sale, that sale will fail. So there's no overbooking. Galaxy will not let the overbook happen. The other benefit with the capacity managed products is you can control this in Galaxy within your sales channel managers. You can control your volumes and your on and off sale times. Some feedback that I get from suppliers is that we would like to turn off the sales for the OTAs on the actual day of the event. Well, you can do that. You control all of that in Galaxy. So the controls are in your hands. And then the biggest benefit is that if a purchase is made for a capacity managed product, when the OTA processes the cancellation, that inventory is released and goes back into your real-time availability. So no tickets are being held and without being used. So any questions on capacity? Okay. All right. Then I really want to get into this topic because this is a topic that's near and dear to me, and that is OTA relationships. So this is not Nell's dating tips, but we're going to talk about OTA relationships. Um, so since I have started on the Connect team in 2017, one of the struggles that I have personally had is the fact that when we're working with OTAs and the suppliers, there are many people involved. Historically, when we work with Galaxy, we're working with a sysadmin person on site or an IT person like Jonathan is. So we have communication with directly with that person and only that person, and we don't really need to have other people involved when it comes to the system. However, when it comes to Connect, there's really four parties involved. That is your OTA. Again, I call them the distributor. There is a sales and marketing team at the supplier site. These are the people that actually are reaching out to the OTAs and making the contracts with them. Then there is the sysadmin IT person. And then there's the Connect team, the Connect Supply Partner Manager. So all four of these parties are in essence working together. However, there's times when we're not all together and messages get missed and updates aren't correct. So my goal is moving forward on with Connect is to start to bring everybody together, start to get the sales and marketing team people more involved, and making sure that everybody has all of these relationships in place and knows who to talk to when they need information. So just as a reminder, the supplier, as a supplier, you own and oversee that OTA relationship. It's yours to control. However, other people need to be involved. So let's talk a little bit more about the different parties. So the sales and marketing team, usually they are the ones that are initiating and completing the contracts with the OTA. Then the sysadmin person is the one who actually has to set up information in Galaxy so that the OTA can make sales. So the sysadmin is setting up the customer account, they're setting up products if there's special products, if there's special prices, any type of information that needs to go into Galaxy is the responsibility of the sysadmin IT person at the supplier. They are also the person then that provides that information to the Connect team, basically the Connect supply partner manager, who is myself and Chris Izu at this point. So when we get that information, we confirm that the setup is complete. We do our own smoke testing. And then what we do is we act as the middleman to try to pull everybody together to get testing completed with the end goal of getting the channel live, because that's really what we're trying to do here, get channels live. And if there's updates, make sure that the updates are done in a timely manner. So there needs to be open communications between all of these parties. So questions to ask when you start publishing through Connect is a little bit of a different topic. Since we have introduced publishing to Connect, it changes the dynamic of Connect a little bit. And it puts a little bit more of the onus on to the supplier. So as a supplier, if you're publishing, well, first of all, if you're a sales and marketing person, you should be asking your sysadmin, are we publishing? And if you are, then you really want to make sure that you know who your contact is at the OTA that needs to know about any changes. And when price and product changes are ready, the question is who at the supplier will be relaying that information to the OTA and who's the correct person at the OTA to receive that information. So these conversations have to start to happen internally at the supplier. Also, if significant changes, so if you're basically replacing all your PLUs with an OTA, do you want some test bookings done? Is that something that we can help you with on the Connect side? Or do you want the OTA to do test bookings? So there's a bunch of questions that need to be asked, and these are between really the sysadmin person and the sales and marketing person at a location. And then my final bullet point here is, are Connect product changes approved by sales and marketing, or are sales and marketing aware? And the reason I bring that up is because there are contracts between you as a supplier and the OTAs. And if you're making changes to prices just because it's your annual price increase, but it isn't included in a contract, then a sales and a marketing person would need to get involved. So I'm going to pick on Aquarium of the Pacific right now. And I think Sarah Brainerd is on the call, I believe. So they're an example of an organization that has pulled together all of the parties involved so that anytime things are happening, Sarah is included. If she's starting the dialogue, she's including myself and their IT person, excuse me, and whoever is involved on the OTA side. And then if their sysadmin person is starting the conversation, they're doing the same thing. So this is what we really want to get is everybody into the bubble so that when changes are made, everyone is aware and involved. So thank you, Aquarium Pacific. I do have several other suppliers that are doing that, but we really want to make that the standard status quo when you're working with Connect. It helps everyone involved. And if you don't know who those people are at your OTAs, reach out to them and ask them specifically. I know we have Sarah on the call, and I believe she has a region that she covers. So we may reach out to Sarah for certain things at Get Your Guide, but we may reach out to someone else at Get Your Guide for other areas of the country. So do your homework, and it makes a big change if you know all of the parties that are involved.
No, we do have a question. It looks like Sarah Brainerd has raised her hand. Sarah, you can unmute if you wanted to ask a question or say anything.
She might have just been waving to say she was here.
Okay.
But Sarah, if you want to contribute anything about how you make it work at Aquarium in the Pacific, feel free. Okay.
I think I unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
There you go. Yes.
All right, great. No, what you said was exactly right. The salesperson or marketing person, obviously, we're the ones that initiate the contact with the OTA, and we're the ones that discuss, connect, whatever API that they use. Make sure that your sales team is aware of Connect and what it can do. Make sure they know what APIs are. I can't tell you how many salespeople don't even know what that means. I would just say make sure you are in conversation with your sales team. I've peppered Nell with so many questions over the years on Connect and different processes, but just make sure your sales team is aware, because we are the ones that work with the OTAs and then work internally with our own admin teams. So just make sure that they know what the system is, know what it can do, so they can really push it. So.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Sarah Brainerd, for jumping in there and letting me pick on you. So, okay, if there's nothing else, then we're going to change gears again, and I'm going to actually hand it over to Wanda, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about dynamic pricing through OTAs.
Yeah. Dynamic pricing is something relatively new in Galaxy Connect. We actually released the functionality early in the pandemic, but then, we kind of lost those 2 years. So we're going to pretend we're starting from scratch now. The functionality itself, and whether or not you decide to use dynamic pricing through the API, it's based on what Galaxy can do with price schedules, price programs, a little bit with sales programs, although that's kind of transparent to the your distributors. But whether you decide to do that or not is a business decision. I want to talk about kind of wrapping around how that works instead of going into the details of that specifically. First, I'm going to give you a little context. Nell was talking about how there's all these different parties involved in, a Galaxy Connect transaction. And really, when we're talking about the data, because that's one of the most important things about how the data is moving when we're talking about dynamic pricing or variable pricing in the API, the consumer is going to see something different. The distributor or OTA is going to see something different, and you're going to see something different. So for example, if we go to Get Your Guide's page for Circle Lines, Harbor Lights Cruises, the way it looks, you're going to go to the page, you're going to pick the date and time of your visit, and you're going to select how many tickets you want, put them into your cart. In the background, Get Your Guide system is interacting with the API in certain ways. You can go ahead and advance now. So there's stuff happening in between Get Your Guide system, Galaxy Connect, and your system to deliver all this data to the consumer. And then if we move on and look at TripAdvisor or Viator's page, again, there's similarities definitely, But what's happening in the back end as we go through all of these steps is, again, very different. GetYourGuide does a fairly quick transaction on the back end with querying and storing data and things like that, whereas Viator's is a lot more chatty. There's a lot more messaging going back and forth. But the consumer sees this simple, front end. Now, if we go ahead and we look at what's the distributor seeing and what are they doing in all of this. So go ahead and click through. Their team is looking at the API specs, the actual messaging structure. Go ahead to the next one. Yeah, the data that's being, back one. Data that's being received through the API. They're not seeing anything that looks like what you see in Galaxy. Now, if we go ahead one more slide. So from your perspective, then, what you're seeing, you're looking at the Galaxy config. You're doing tickets and items, price programs, sales programs, adding the price schedules on the product, putting those things into a channel and publishing them out to Galaxy Connect. So it's really a different view. And one of the challenges this gives us is, as we're talking to each other between all these parties that need to communicate, we're all using different terms. We're all thinking about it in a different picture. So when we're working on that communication, just understanding that the word somebody else uses may be entirely different than the way you think of it, the things that they're looking at. Even when we talk about the support team. So if you need to contact GetYourGuide or TripAdvisor or any of our connected distributors because there's a problem, what their team sees is really only a small part of that picture of the whole thing. So again, just being patient, thinking about how we're using different terminologies. So as we go back to dynamic pricing, then, like I said, in Galaxy, it's price schedules, price programs. When I'm talking to distributors, I'm talking about variable pricing or channel pricing. The other term that we use is dynamic pricing. Galaxy doesn't support a true dynamic pricing, but I know we have some gateway customers who use plugins that allow a more dynamic method to doing it. But we're all talking about the same thing. So go ahead and advance. Really, it comes down to what we're seeing. And when you're deciding to present these variable price products to your distributors, go ahead and go back one. No. Yep, there we go. So think about then when we were looking at that view that the different parties have, each of these connected distributors is working with the data a little differently. They're seeing the data, but their system works differently. They plug things in differently. When they decide to update and make an expose support for the variable pricing, I'm losing my voice, sorry. They're all doing that on their own development schedule in their own time, based on their own priorities, based on who they work with, right? Which of our gateway customers they work with and what you need. So now go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and advance now. One of the ways that you can tell who's supporting the variable pricing, dynamic pricing, is through those 2 pages that we're just showing. There's a public one that your sales teams can get a hold of right on our gateway facing site. And then there's also the gated one in our knowledge base. That was the one Nell just clicked through a minute ago, that you can see if you have a login into our knowledge base. If you go to the knowledge base, go down the left nav to the Galaxy Connect column, you'll get to it that way. So either of those places, you can go on and see who's supporting dynamic prices in Galaxy Connect, who's certified, and then who has this extra level of support. From the people that are already certified, you'll see these little check boxes on both of the interfaces. You'll see the little check boxes, and GetYourGuide just added there. So I don't think their checkbox is lit up on this one, but there is on the other one, right, on the other page. So, they're slowly adding support for the functionality, but they don't all have it yet. When you decide, and your sales team decides to think about this, definitely check these out, figure out who has it, and then have a conversation. So last part of my chat, have the conversation. Then you can have it with us, certainly, but really the best people to talk to are your connected distribution partners. So those OTAs that you work with. Do they support dynamic pricing now? If not, when do they plan to make the update? Do they have any other methods they can work with you for to help implement it? Some of their systems do some other things that may work out for you in the short term. when you're developing those commercial agreements, or if you're the Galaxy SA, find out what the commercial agreements stipulate, because sometimes there are things negotiated into those about pricing structures or product availability or when price changes happen. Make sure that you understand how those work. And then if you're looking to add variable pricing to your mix, figure out, do your most important partners support it? If they don't, are there any ways that you can still work with them? Maybe a mix of products where you have some higher price flex tickets and some lower priced, targeted date and time tickets. Are there different things that you can do to work with them to keep the conversation going? But like I said, the most important thing, and as Nell mentioned earlier, is to work with them directly, talk with them directly. We're happy to participate, help translate terminology, help make sure everybody's on the same page, but you're the one who holds the closest relationship with those distributors when it comes to the commercial agreements and the product sets.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you, Wanda. Nell, just before you get started, I did want to say, Lovey, I do see your question, and we will answer that at the end. I do want to give Sarah and Jonathan their time to shine. So Nell's going to move there, but Lovey, we will make sure that that question is answered.
Yep. Yep. All right. So now my favorite part, Q&A with our special guests. So as we mentioned, we have Sarah Lowe from Get Your Guide, and we have Jonathan Cellura from New York Cruise Line. So thank you guys for joining us. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them 3 specific questions, and I'm going to let Sarah answer and then let Jonathan uh, uh, jump in also. So the first question is, if I'm a supplier, how do I start a relationship with an OTA? What do I do?
Great question. The simple answer is it's very easy. I know it can seem quite daunting to think about distributing and what that means in the process for your sales team, and of course your IT team, but it doesn't have to be daunting. You may have already been contacted by someone from Get Your Guide wanting to work together. So it's as simple as picking up where that left off or signing up on said OTA that you're interested in working with. From there, speaking specifically for Get Your Guide, we would help you with the onboarding process for your product and get things live.
One further question on this one. Do you have a link on your site that I can click on if I
Yes.
don't have any contacts? Okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay. And Jonathan, how about you guys from the supplier's perspective or from the IT perspective? What's
Well,
your, where do you sit in this?
so I'm the main Galaxy administrator at New York Cruise Lines, and Sarah Brainerd brought up a good point before: is get to know the business, find out about OTAs and the whole tourism industry. When I first started at NYCL, I knew nothing about tourism. I was just into IT and tech, but now I know all the terms. It makes it much easier to work with everyone. So that being said, you guys had the bullet points up before of how to go about it. Sales team, it's very simple. Sales team usually engages with the OTA. Once that happens, sales engages with IT or whoever your Galaxy administrator is. We start the onboarding process, usually opening up a Connect support request ticket with Gateway. Once we have confirmation that the new OTA is onboarded with Gateway, connected to our company, we download the information via sales channel. We enter the product information, we publish the Gateway, and then we contact the OTA. And then once all the product information is in there, we do some tests, we run some tests, and then we know we're ready to go live. So it's a really simple process.
Awesome. Awesome.
We live
And
happily
it's,
ever after.
yeah. And it sounds like you guys know who does what. So you mentioned somebody reaches out to the OTA after the items are published. So, and I think that's a key part that everybody knows what role they play. So thank you, Jonathan. All right, next question. What benefits can an OTA offer me as a supplier? So Sarah, what could you offer if I want to open an amusement park? What can you offer me as an OTA?
Yeah. So it's all about what an OTA can do to add the most value. Again, specifically with Get Your Guide, you are distributing on a platform where customers can search and discover your experience, read and understand your experience, and check out and pay for the experience all in their local language and currency. So OTAs are serving up a menu to customers looking for things to do in a destination, offering that one-stop shop for experiences. at every part of the customer's journey. So that's pre-departure, that's right when they're getting ready to get on the plane and getting excited about what else they want to do, and then also being in destination as well.
Very good. And Jonathan, what benefits do the OTAs offer for you on the supplier side? What's your opinion on that question?
Well, it's a different audience, right? So we have our regular web traffic that comes to circleline.com or any of our other websites. We have our groups and schools that call up or anyone like that. But what about everyone else? What about people who will never go to our website or will never call our phone number and just prefer to shop on an OTA website? Well, how would we get those customers? We wouldn't, right? So that it opens it opens up that other sales channel that you would probably miss out on. It's a different audience you would never get.
Right. Very good. And I like that you guys mentioned, or Sarah, you had mentioned about the language. So if I'm in Germany, I can go on Get Your Guide and do all my searches in German and get all my results in my own language. I'm
Yep.
throwing German out there, but I don't know if I'm assuming that's one of them.
It's a good choice for Get Your Guide. No. But it's also the customer that German is their local language. However, they might already be in the US, right? So it's marketing that language even in the United States. So again, kind of capturing that customer at every part of the journey.
Very good. Very good.
And just if I can add to that, Nell,
Sure.
just to add to that, we used to get this there, the OTAs that we would miss out on. Maybe we wouldn't miss out on them in the past because we offered vouchers through these clients, but a lot of times people don't want to. If you're on a limited time on your vacation, you want a resource managed ticket, you want a time ticket, you want to know you're going to be able to get on and not going to have to come back the next day. So that's been a huge help for us.
Agreed.
Awesome.
I would second that. The consumer confidence aspect of being connected through API and having that instant confirmation and ticket in hand, really, I mean, the growth that we've seen from attractions and tour operators that we've connected with is exponential. So we know it works.
Nice. Very good. Great point. Great points. All right. This is a question that I hear. I don't want to say often, but I do hear it, and it's a strong concern. So, should I be afraid of cannibalization when it comes to OTAs?
That's a great question, and one that's honestly very important to cover. Having been on the supplier side before, I understand why this is top of mind when considering distribution. It's important for me as a destination manager to understand the attraction or tour operator's goals and where they're currently marketing on their own. That idea is always to help our partners get in front of a customer they would not otherwise reach through supplemental marketing, and therefore providing that incremental revenue. Something I always say to partners is that if there is that concern, let's start working together and monitor sales. The idea is that we should always be growing in the same trajectory together. And if we're at any point not, then that's something to talk about. I'm happy to say I've not encountered that quite yet. So until then, there's really no risk to start working together. And the customer walking through your door is that direct return on investment.
Good point. And Jonathan, I think you already answered this question when you answered the last question, when you said clearly, how are those other people going to find us if they don't go on our site? Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, exactly. It does cover both. I mean,
yeah,
we may not get these certain customers to ever show up at all. So it's more important to us to, well, let's just say for argument's sake that there is some cannibalization. Okay, fair enough. You can run your numbers and crunch your numbers and see if that's something your business is a negative or a positive. But for us, it's never even been a consideration that it's a negative. It's only a positive. We want, just like Sarah said, we want to engage with the customer. We want to get the customer through our doors. So it's for us there's no worries about cannibalization at all.
Very good. Very good.
And for
Very
me, I
good.
mean, I went to Italy a few years ago. I wasn't going to all the websites. I wasn't going to call up. I didn't speak the language. My only option was going through an OTA, someone I felt comfortable with. So you would never get me otherwise.
That is an excellent point. I love that you included that comment. Jonathan, because it's very true. You don't know what's there also. And if there's language barriers, the OTAs can help you with all of that. So Sarah, I do want to talk to
Nell,
you. Oh,
sorry, I was going to interrupt because I just got an inspiration. Sorry to interrupt.
go
But
ahead.
Sarah, I'm going rogue here. So if you don't have an answer, that's completely fine. But I remember talking with Get Your Guide last year with Dominic about, and I think he had some numbers about like in destination searches, which Jonathan, you literally just nailed it. So do you happen to know like how many tickets are purchased like in destination? Do you have numbers like that?
I don't have anything quite that specific, but what I can tell you is that in the last year and a half, just during COVID and realizing that our bread and butter as Get Your Guide used to be international visitation. Being based in Berlin, that's the number one OTA in Europe. Not having those travelers coming to the US, we realized we had to shift strategy a little bit, and start doing a little bit more in destination marketing, getting our brand out there in the US. So what we have realized in general is that not only has our customer base in destination direct to brand sales increased, but it has also increased in the US. So that brand presence is quite larger than it was in the past. We invested in a lot of joint marketing campaigns with top attractions in New York City, which was very successful for both us and the attractions themselves. So a lot of work has been done, hitting the ground and making sure that we are as visible as possible.
Can
Yeah,
I
and another thing.
ask? Sorry,
Another
go ahead.
thing Dominic had mentioned to me, which this is a little less relevant now, but during COVID, people were very hesitant to buy, well, a lot of people were very hesitant to buy tickets in advance because they just literally had no idea if on that day they'd be able to go. There might be a COVID shutdown, they may have COVID. So they were waiting till they were in destination, just like Jonathan had mentioned, and then purchasing a ticket. So just another way how the OTA channel might not be cannibalizing the your walk up sales. It's just kind of adding to it.
Yeah,
That's for me, Nell. Sorry to I know
No,
I
no, that's
acted.
good conversation. Go ahead, Sarah.
no, I was just going to say that customer behavior tends to shift quite often. But you're right. During COVID, there was that hesitation, and I think there is still a little bit of that hesitation. We found that flexible cancellation and having a 24-hour cancellation policy was absolutely needed. That goes back to consumer confidence. You can have an API connection and you can have an instant ticket, but at the end of the day, if you can't go, what does it matter? So, having that flexible cancellation was something that we also noticed for future travelers and what they were looking for post-COVID world.
I just wanted to ask Sarah, can you just clarify when you guys say in destination in case there's people on the line that don't know that term?
Yeah. So in destination and the way that Greg is speaking is, I'm in New York City. I'm traveling from, we'll use Germany again, but I'm actually in New York City. I may have already booked things to do prior, but I have some extra time on my hands. I'm looking quickly for something that I can, plug in there and go and experience with my extra time. But then in destination marketing, what I was talking about earlier, was actually focusing on the Northeast is where we focused on as an example, and really getting brand presence out there. And that was through, commercials locally. We were in Times Square on top of taxi cabs. So that's the two different ways we're interchangeably using in destination.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Great conversations. I do want to ask you one more thing, Sarah. And I know you mentioned it, you alluded to it, that you came from the supplier side. So, can you share a little bit of your experience from the supplier side with OTAs, and and if you have anything specific about Connect, if you want to drop that in there, that would be great too.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, working with Connect, is the longest system I worked with from the supplier side. So know it pretty well from Jonathan's side of things. Maybe not as technical as Jonathan's, but yeah, it was my first experience in the tourism activities sector was working with Galaxy, and for me, it had everything that I needed for the times, and I'm really happy to see the dynamic pricing coming about as well. I know that Wanda mentioned GetYourGuide is available for pricing. We're doing a little bit of testing right now, so we're excited to be able to launch that with you guys as well. But I think Jonathan might be able to speak a little bit more, maybe on the technical side of what it's like to work with Gal.
You want to add anything there, John? You're muted.
I will say that now that the sales channels have been introduced, where you can actually publish yourself, and cutting out Galaxy as the middleman has been a really big help. So right now, all we have to do is once we onboard the customer with Gateway, which is that's what's needed at first. You need to involve Galaxy, but once that's done, we just upload our products to Gateway, and then cuts out Gateway completely after that, and we can just contact the OTA and say, hey, go ahead and connect to Galaxy Connect. Everything's in there. You don't need to talk to them at all.
Thank you. That's a great plug for Connect Publishing. So if anyone's on the call that is currently using Connect and you're not publishing yet, please reach out to me, because our goal is to get everyone to be able to publish. There are some version specific requirements, so reach out to us. We definitely want everyone to have that ability. It's really a great help for the suppliers, and it's a huge help for those of us on the Connect team. And there's no more waiting for us to get things done, and you guys have the control in your own hands. So at this point, thank you, Sarah and Jonathan. Great, great feedback. I'd like to actually open it up. We have some time. We have a few minutes. Are there any additional questions that anyone has for any
So
of us?
I wanted to make sure we addressed Lovey's, and then we do also have something for John and Sarah if we get to it. So Nell, I'm sure you saw the comment, but first of all, she's very happy to see you and appreciates
Yes, I'm happy to see her too.
Is
I
there
love
any
her.
word on the development with the Explorer Pass GoCity Connect integration?
I cannot answer that right now. I have to follow up and get an update from Tom and his team, and I will do that. And Lovey, I will get back to you specifically on that question with an
So let's
update.
extrapolate that just a little bit. How does a OTA get on the Galaxy Connect list? How does it make, how does their logo get on
Oh,
there?
okay. So you're meaning, if you are a new, or if you know of a new OTA that would like to work with you on Connect, um, basically, if you know of an OTA, you can send an email in to us and do an email introduction, and just say, hey, this is someone that we currently work with. We'd like them to get on Connect to make our lives easier. Wanda, I'm going to call on you. What is the email that they should use when they send that email in?
It's Connect Distributors, plural, and I think you have it on your last slide in the slide deck.
Yeah, I do. Thanks. All right. So if if you're currently working with a distributor that is not on Connect, but you do business with them and you want to see them move towards the Connect platform, send that email in to Connect Distributors at Gateway Ticketing, and just do an intro and just say, hey, this is somebody we currently work with. We'd like to see them get on Connect. And if you want to do a little plug for it, you can. If not, we'll take care of that for you. But just send the email.
Yeah, I've always found that if you do like a three-way email, introduce us, include them on the email, it keeps the communications flowing most effectively.
Exactly. Good question.
And then we had something else come in. So this is for Jonathan and Sarah. And Sarah, I don't actually know what your title was on the supplier side, so this may be moved for you. However, did you need to do any convincing for your sales and marketing folks to onboard Galaxy Connect? Because we did talk a lot about how sales and marketing kind of initiates an OTA relationship. but did you need to convince them that Connect was worth it? And if so, how do you do that? We'll kick it to Jonathan first.
Yes, we actually did. We did. I think it was just an unknown in the industry at the time. So we had to explain and do a whole presentation about how we would be getting out of the voucher business and we wouldn't have to exchange these vouchers, which would then help out our box office and help out our accounting department. So it helped for reconciliation, but operationally it helped as well. So we show them how the customer doesn't have to stop at the box office and exchange a voucher. They can just go right up to our ticket taker and get scanned. So there was some education at first to do, but this was a few years ago now. We've been on it it's 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years now. But yeah, there was at first because people were just hesitant, just because it was an unknown. Once they realized what it was, I mean, it's in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. Like all the points we touched on earlier.
I can add to that too, Greg. I don't know who the question came from, but if you are a sysadmin at a supplier or in any position at a supplier and you're interested in connecting, you're getting pushback, please reach out to me directly. Send me an email. We have a really great Galaxy Connect overview. It's a high level overview, but it really makes it clear the benefits of using Connect if you're selling through OTAs. So please reach out and we'll be happy to help you do some convincing if that's what you need. So.
And Sarah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Not as much. I started at the attraction after they were sold, so I wasn't a part of the conversation.
Gotcha. I also didn't know if you were on the sales and marketing side, so you were maybe the one needing to be convinced, but understood.
Yeah.
Those were the questions that we had come in, and we are coming up against time anyway, but I will just maybe pause for another 20 seconds, or I won't pause, I'll just talk aimlessly and fill time for another 20 seconds while we wait to see if any other questions come in. We do have a case study that we did with the USS Midway a little while back. I do think I saw some people from the Midway on the call.
I think I saw
but just how Connect really helped them save staff hours. I think a lot of that was with reconciling vouchers, like Jonathan had mentioned, but also helped increase sales with their largest distributors. So you could scan that QR code or click the link. And then if you do end up in our community, we did actually do a case study with GetYourGuide in late September last year. So there's also a GetYourGuide case study in there. Yep, there it is. Dominic just pasted it.
Awesome.
So with that, I just wanted to thank Nell and Wanda for organizing a ton of this information, getting it down in this presentation format and presenting for us. I also wanted to really especially thank Sarah and John for coming on and adding some customer and supplier validity to everything that we're saying. So thank you so much.
And thanks, Sarah Brainerd, for jumping in. So on the fly.
Yes, Jonathan.
Sorry.
I think one of the pictures is from you.
No more. No more.
No more.
All right, so we'll wrap that up. Thank you, everyone. That's wraps.
Thanks, everybody.